name of the show is The Way to Go. My name is Alan Bendich. I'm going to be your host. Tonight's guest is a good friend of mine and an actor on Scriptless, Mr. Peter Passaro. How you doing, Pete?
Hey, Alan. It's good to be here tonight.
It's great to have you on the show. It's this is something that's long overdue. Pete and I have, I've known you now since when? When did you first get on the show? Was it March or April?
It was March or April. I believe I got a call from you, and you said, "Hey, I got something for you, and I think this would be perfect for you."
Yeah. And you're good friends with a cousin of mine, right? I mean, I'm curious because my wife was asking me today, how did Pete and James meet? I mean, and did you work with him, or how did that happen?
Yeah, actually, I had a construction background,
right.
And needing work and stuff. He has a professional radon system is the name of his company,
right.
And it looked really good from my general construction background, building houses, stuff like that.
Right.
It was a good fit, and once we met, we meshed real well.
Right.
So we got along real well at work, and we worked together for years, and we became really good friends on top of all that.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and his wife's a great gal, Lisa. And it was funny. He and I. We spent a lot of time earlier, but when we got families together, it wound up being a little bit more difficult because he's in Jersey, we live in Larchmont. But I just remember talking about, we connected about Scriptless, and he said, "I got like the perfect guy for your show. I mean, this guy is like a killer." He's like this karate dude, this martial artist, and he also said, and the other thing is that all the girls love him. He actually said that, which was, I said, wow, okay, why not? Eye candy for the girls on the show. So I made the call, and I'm happy I did. It was great. And it's been an interesting experience, this whole Scriptless thing, right? I mean,
it's been a challenge, and it's been a great challenge. I mean, we're talking improv all the time,
right.
And that's a challenge because you're never sure. Right. Where you're going 100%. I mean, we get a general description of what we're going to do, but then you're up on your own. And, we used to do improv as an acting, exercise,
right.
To what you're going to do when you read a script. But to actually, okay, now we're going to film it like this.
How much time do you have to think about the whole thing?
Yeah, and then you got to react off the other person.
Right.
You're bouncing back and forth,
right.
and to get the reaction, you got to get in a groove with the other actors
right.
or actresses that you're working with.
And they have to get in the groove with you.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing also is that I think maybe it was more challenging in the beginning because we were establishing who our characters were, at least at that time, and they changed too. The characters, our individual characters have changed a little bit because of the roles that we're playing or that we're creating. But I think all of it, we've just shot the 8th episode, right? And,
yeah.
And it's like, I think we pretty much know who we are at this point, right? Would you say that?
Yeah, I think like on any show, you see how the character starts out,
right.
and then you see how they evolve. And you always see, like, sometimes a major thing happens to that character, and you'll see that character take a change in another direction, and you're like, whoa, I never saw that coming from that particular person.
Right. And it's like a sequel every, and it is kind of like a soap opera, right? It is, but it's every week you're building up on the prior week, or every episode you're building
right.
up on the prior episodes, and it's fun. I'm having a good time. But you have other endeavors as well, right? I think through the show you met Greg Criticos, right?
Right. He plays Salvatore.
That's right.
And we started working together, and we hit it off real well. I figure, okay, if I'm going to be his lieutenant, I'm gonna have to be close to this guy. Right. We're gonna have to. If you're going to read each other well,
right.
you kind of need to spend some time off camera with each other and kind of get to
Absolutely.
know each other. So, we went out a couple of times. I went to the comedy clubs with him and stuff. And next
He's
thing
a
you
comedian,
know,
right?
yeah. Next thing you know, he's getting me involved into the comedy and stuff like that. So,
and were you ever involved in comedy prior to that, or is this something that has emerged as a result of the relationship between you and Greg?
In the focus that he's taken it for me, yes. Right. I had done live stage where I played a funny character,
right.
but that was written in the script, and I'm reading off the script, and I'm going that direction. This is stand-up comedy, and this right. is a whole new direction. It's a lot different, and it's another challenge.
And I know that the crowds are getting bigger and bigger for you guys, and that's really good. And I do wish you well. It's exciting. One of the things, that's also like, if it wasn't for Scriptless, you know what I mean? So it's like, these are things that I'm happy that relationships are building and people are actually things are working out for people.
Well, it all did truly start with Scriptless.
Isn't that crazy?
and then
It's
it
all
grows
nuts.
from there. You know, and well, everybody's got something going on. You know, we all have to. You know,
So
have
what
other
other-
projects. You
Yeah,
have
and
multiple things.
Good question. Other projects. I mean, what other project? I mean, before Scriptless, you were an actor, and
Yes.
you've worked in other projects. Could you talk about some of those?
Sure. I had started, way back with my sensei back in the early '90s. I started. Wherever he went to teach martial arts, that's where I went. He dragged me all around the country, so I got to work with a lot of top martial artists, throughout my time.
How old were you when you started martial arts?
I was a teenager. I started when I was like 14 years old. So got into a fight, and Dad says, "Hey, if you're gonna fight, you better learn how to fight really well." And then as you start learning martial arts, you start realizing that you're learning how to fight, but not to fight. It's kind of like the whole discipline thing comes in. And then you start realizing that somewhere along the line, wait a minute, this discipline has crept into every part of my life. It's not just the martial arts, but it creeps into your work life and your disciplines on how you conduct yourself, and it
also-
changes you as a person.
And as a person on the set of Scriptless, you're the most helpful person. And I mean, I'm not saying, I'm being real. You're the most helpful person, respectful, and disciplined. There's no question about it. I mean, if someone needs to get mic'd or something like this, or, if you have to have the boom mic, there's no one that reaches for the boom mic quicker than you. As a matter of fact, no one else does but you. But no, but you do. You're there, and you're like a helpful kind of guy, and that's who you are.
That's the way O-Sensei made me. He says, if you're going to be out there, help people, and we're there to do something. We're there if you're going to do it right, and do it to the best of your ability. So if I need to get down and, get in there, get it done.
And I mean, I'll go back to that. But one of the interesting things is that as a result of who you are, your initial role was a little bit smaller and it's evolving. And it's because of what you bring to the table and who you are, and everyone loves working with you on the set.
Thanks.
So.
Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
So you were into the martial arts,
Right.
how did that progress into anything else?
Yes, my sensei started getting into the stunts and effects. So the next thing you know, we're doing stunt camps and doing effects, and I'm doing fight choreography, and
that's cool.
it kept growing. And then he did a movie called The Cutoff a long time ago, and from there I just started. Okay, now I got a taste, and once you're bitten,
right.
and you get the bug, forget it. You want in. So I want to be an action guy. I want to be Chuck Norris. That's where my mindset was. As I want to be like Chuck. I saw him doing his stuff. Some of Mike's friends are Bill Wallace, Don the Dragon Wilson, Bob Walt, who you work with Bruce Lee and Enter the Dragon.
Wow.
I got to meet John Saxon later on. So
that's cool.
A lot of these guys that Cynthia
So
Rothrock.
is John Saxon really like? Is he as good as he looks on TV in terms of working? Of karate or whatever.
I
it is,
think
martial arts?
I think he was a straight up actor that learned some martial arts, kind of like David Carradine did also, where he really got, and then he really went strong into it, know. So I think a lot of actors start out not doing it, and then they realize, hey, wait a minute, this is going to be a part of what I'm doing, and
was
I'm
John
going to learn it.
Saxon taught by Bruce Lee?
I would think that initially, especially back then, I don't think he knew that much back then. I don't know the extensiveness. I only talked to him a little bit about it.
I thought I saw, I think looking back, like you see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar working out with Bruce Lee. And
Extensively, yeah.
But I think John Saxon was, again, I could be totally wrong, but just looking at old videos in my mind right now, I think he might have been one of his students at one point.
Yes, I think once they worked together, they had good chemistry and friendship, and then they kept it going for a while. And Bob Walt was always into the martial arts. As a matter of fact, Bruce Lee found him because he was a champion, and got to work with him. Same thing with Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris was a champion at the time, so. And I got to work with a lot of these guys, and Danny Lane was one of Chuck Norris's top guys, and these are the guys that I got to work with later on. So I got to be around champions and world champions, the American Karate Team with Joe Louis, Dr. Jerry Beasley, Bill Wallace, and Danny Lane. And this is, not only was I going to the seminars, but I'd spend the whole weekend with them. I'm sitting at dinner you know, we're having breakfast together, we're having lunch, and we're talking about
And
martial arts 24/7.
And these are real. I mean, they're really good. I mean, they're real people, right? I mean,
They're real people, but they are into it. They live it. I mean, they think about it all the time.
So were you able? What did you get from that? Was it like osmosis? Did you get a lot from those experiences?
Absolutely. I learned that if you want, one of the things I learned was the discipline, and if you want something, then you go for it and you work at it. You work your 10, 12, 14 hours a day to go accomplish your goals, and don't let anything get in your way.
Wow,
that was one of the biggest things that I said, you know, and really makes you focus in on what you're going to do and head for it. And then once the acting bug mixed with the martial arts, forget it. It just took off. I knew what I wanted to do.
Do you still communicate with these people, or is this?
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what's up with them now? Are they?
Well, Michael DePasquale, which was my sensei, just had a black belt test this past weekend.
Right.
I'm on an injury right now, so I'm just taking back while I'm working through my physical therapy. Right. But a lot of the guys are still training and doing it. And some have passed away. You know, unfortunately,
Right.
we lose people along the way.
Right.
But there's some of the old school guys that taught me are still around, and it's always been a pleasure to see them.
Well, actually, we'll talk about that later, because I was going to ask you about your injury. But you know, I just remember I took martial arts for like a minute when I was in college, and I just remember this guy. He was. And I forget, I don't even remember, it was probably, I can't remember exactly which martial arts I took, but the guy that was the sensei, or whatever, the master, his name was Master Yun, actually, was his name. I mean, the guy used to drink and smoke cigarettes, but, you know, he would also, you know, be able to, you know, he had such control that, you know, he did the sword with the apple on the person's belly and all that stuff. Sure. And I was just amazed that, you know, I mean, it seemed like he drank, he smoked, but still he was able to. I mean, is that something that's unusual that people?
Well, there's been. I know what you're saying. Right. Yeah, they're real people, you know, right. And they have some people drink more than others, right. Or have their vices that they do.
But does it affect the martial arts? That's I mean, because like
overall, I don't think it. I think long term it can. I think any heavy drinking will hurt you long term, but they're working out a lot too.
Right.
You know, they don't just have one class. They have 5 classes a day. They have private classes. They have seminars on the weekend.
Even some of them smoked, which was something that really freaked me out, you know?
Yeah, I can't believe it either. I mean, I work hard at my cardio. If I smoked, it would kill me. Right. And I have asthma. It would really shut me down.
And I'd hear things like that they had control over the fact that they, you know, or at least it was mind over matter, or whatever the situation was. And I don't know, maybe that was mythological stuff, but
I think because they work out so much,
right.
And a lot of the physical training might offset a lot of the effects of it.
Cleanses
yeah,
it.
So there's like a counterbalance. Right. But if you didn't, you'd even be better.
Right, that's true.
You know, you could even have more. You know, that's the way I always saw it. You know, so the more I got disciplined, the more I would. You just seem to really micro-focus, you know?
No, I also know that you do something else, right? That you do a lot of other things, but you're also involved in the Renaissance Fair, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's pretty cool. I like that. I like that.
Again, more improv all day long. I mean, it's long hours. You're there for 10 hours. There's no script.
I heard it's a lot of fun, though. I heard that there's a lot of fun going on in those places. I had another buddy of mine did the Renaissance Fair back like 20 or 30 years ago, maybe 40 years ago, whenever, a while back. And he told me that the fun you could have on those days is, I mean, it's crazy.
It's another pleasure.
Yes.
The New York Renaissance Festival has been running for 38 years.
Okay, so it might have been that.
And they just opened up the Queen to the public, where the Queen was always inaccessible. So this year was the first year, this past summer, it was the first year they really let it out. And they started this thing called the St. George's Guild. Right. And when I went down to audition and stuff, they saw me, they looked at me, and they said, "You'd be a yeoman of the guard." Right away, they just saw discipline in my face. Right. And they singled me out, and a couple other guys, and they said, "This is what's going to be for you, and you're going to be right by the Queen, you know, private guard to the Queen." And it was a great, I think, a great spot to be in. It was one of the top spots there, you know, as far as, you know, you're guarding the Queen. Right. You know, it doesn't get any better than that. Wherever the Queen goes, I go.
And I've seen pictures, and it's cool in your get-up and all that.
Yeah, so really traditional.
How many years have you done that?
That was this summer was my first year doing it.
Oh, this is your first year.
Yeah, and I had always gone more as a patron. I dressed as a barbarian and stuff, and I always liked acting so I always wanted to, Halloween was always a great time for me.
Right,
So
right.
I always enjoyed, putting a scar on my head or a big cut somewhere on me and
Right.
really getting into it. And I had done that for a couple of years. And the funny thing is people thought I worked there back then because
Right.
I took the part so seriously when I was there and really got into it. And then this year I had the opportunity to be the yeoman and had to speak with a British accent all the time.
Oh, my
and,
God.
yeah, that was another challenge. And then I found myself speaking like that outside of the place. I'd be in public and I'd be speaking, late 15th century,
crazy.
Shakespearean type talk.
Do you plan to do it again next year? Or,
Absolutely. They want me to come back, and I want to go back. And
And
I'm
how
looking
long
forward
is
to it.
how long is the gig?
It's a 3-month gig. It's long. It's
Is
a
it every
commitment.
day? Or is it the weekends?
They would like to open up during the week. There'd been talks. I don't know how that's going to go. It's just the weekends, Saturday and Sunday.
And from what time? From what time to what time?
It's 10 to 7.
Wow.
So we open the gates at 10 and we go to 7 o'clock at night. And then we got to be there at 8. We're there 2 hours before. We got to get ready into costume.
And where is it located?
It's in Tuxedo, New York.
Right. That's
and
it. Right, yeah. I
I
remember.
think
'cause
it's
I went
right
there
off
with
of
my wife.
17A.
I went there with my wife and my son. I don't think my daughter had been born yet, or maybe she was in the stroller. And we went once, but it was great. It was a lot of fun, and a lot of good food. I remember like drumsticks. And
Yeah, everyone always walked around with the drums. That was like the feature that people would want to go. That was one of the things that you would look forward. The joust was another big attraction.
Right.
And they actually put a lot of money into it this past summer. They had really beefed the place up. They actually added and expanded the back. They had a whole barbarian clan come in, and they really want to take it to the next level, and they did, because like sometimes it would be front end heavy, and some of the stuff in the back didn't get the attention that it should.
Yeah, I think
so
because
they
it's so big.
restructured it.
The place is so big that it's just how much can you walk, and it's really tough to do it in one day. I would say
You have to come back.
You have to come back.
And that's the best part about
I know,
it.
But I think we tried to do it in a day, and so you wind up rushing from one thing to the other and to the different booths or whatever, the different stages and things like that.
Well, that's the other thing. They have multiple shows going on, so if you pick one show, you might miss another.
Right.
And some of it's tight, and sometimes you got to go across the place. And like you said, it's big, and when
Yeah.
you don't know the place,
Right.
it's twisted and turns, and you get lost. So,
But it was fun. I loved it, and I know my son loved it. But he was just a little boy back then, and now he's a man.
And the actors come from all over too. So what they have is they have encampment there for when you're from out of state. Right. So now you kind of start living like that
Did
style.
you used to hang out there after work, or?
Sometimes, yeah, we'd stay there Friday nights. A lot of the actors wanted to get together on Friday nights, and you're sitting by campfire and you're hanging out,
great.
and
it's
you're
beautiful.
having a few drinks.
It's
or whatever
summertime,
you're doing.
right?
Yeah,
So that's
summertime it's nice, so you can hang out. But you're out in the wild. People are pitching tents and sleeping in tents.
Crazy.
Showering cold water.
Well, it sounds like hippies. Yeah, it's great. So, any other projects other than Scriptless currently that you're working on?
We with the comedy.
But I'm talking about films or anything like that.
Well, there is a film project.
Yes.
It's kind of like it's called Bare Knuckle Brawlers.
Right.
It's a little bit on pause right now because of my injuries.
Right.
I'm playing the main
So what
character,
happened?
Steve.
Oh, we'll get there. But what happened? What injury did you have?
Torn rotator cuff. It was from a car accident.
Right.
And we thought we could.
So you're not going to be able to pitch anymore, is that it?
No more pitching. No more throwing the football with the left arm. And,
Right. Yeah.
no, they reconstructed. It was completely detached.
Oh my God.
And I had the operation, and they screwed me back together. So I'm like a robo guy now. So there's titanium screws in there that actually hold the rotator cuff back onto the bone.
Has it changed your physical appearance at all, or are you able, since for working out, maintain the same?
I haven't found out yet. There's been a decline in my ability to work out at all.
Right.
I'm in physical therapy currently,
Right.
and we're hoping that I get back to where I was. I don't know about throwing punches with it yet or anything like that. I haven't even tested it, and that's my biggest concern, is getting back to the martial arts. Right. But being a martial artist, we're known to embrace the workout or the pain.
And didn't Bruce Lee break his back or something like that?
He was in traction. They mentioned that story. I don't know how. I don't know. You know how sometimes in a movie they change it a little bit for writing stuff.
Right.
But Yeah, he was in traction. He was laid up, and
And he
you know,
still got
sometimes
back.
you never recover from that. You know, so and he recovered well.
But
And
I'll
all
tell you-
athletes get injuries, knees, shoulders.
I was nervous when we were shooting Scriptless episode 8, because you had just had surgery, and I was wondering, I'm nervous about what. And you came on the set, and you looked exactly like you always looked. I mean, there was no change, but so you're able. And I'm sure there's pain, right?
Well,
I mean,
the surgery was September 25th.
Right.
So I've had 2 months to heal.
But still, there's still pain, I'm sure, right?
There's pain every day. Actually, it actually gets warm, and this one muscle right through here.
Yeah.
For some reason, it just always hurts.
So,
So I don't know if there's going to be, if that's just the way it is, and I'm going to have to just live with it.
and I guess that's part of life, is living with pain also,
Yes.
right? And one thing that's interesting.
True actor.
I mean, have you met my dad?
Yes, on the set.
Okay. Right. I mean, he never complained about pain at all, you know, and it's amazing. He never complained about anything. I'm the biggest baby in the world. You know, I stubbed my toe, I'm crying. Wendy, you know, I call my wife, but it's amazing the pain that he deals with as being a 99-year-old guy. Never complained. You're like that too. You're like very stoic. You know. I guess you're learning at a young age to.
Yeah, I've always been known to take pain well, even from a young age. My mom always used to tell a story when I was like 8 years old. We were at Eisenhower Park. Just got there, running around. First 5 minutes, I slip, I hit, split my eye open.
Oh
I
my God.
Cracked it all the way open like this. 12 stitches to put the eye in. So she rushes me to the hospital, and she's like, "Leave it to you. 5 minutes, and you're already hurt."
Yeah.
And takes me to the hospital. 6 nurses walk into the room because they figure they're gonna have to hold this kid down, screaming, you know, to stop him from whatever. They all come out laughing. 5 minutes later, and I just laid there and just took the stitches, no anesthesia,
So that's
anything.
just
So I've
all your
always
life.
just taken pain well. So my mom was always, if he says he hurts, you better take it serious, you know, because if he's complaining about it, it must be bad.
Is this injury that you sustained the worst injury you ever had?
This one, yes. Yeah, this is the worst one. I've never been down for this long or hurt. So.
But you look like you're coming back, though. I mean, if you didn't tell me that you were, and even on the set, if you hadn't told me that you were injured, I would never have known it.
Thanks.
You know,
I think it's muscle memory. You know, I've been working out my whole life. I've dedicated to the martial arts, like I said, since I was a teenager, and I've never stopped doing it.
So when are you going to be able to start working out again?
Well, I'm in physical therapy, so they have me doing exercises.
But it's not quite the same, right?
It's not the same.
Right.
I think they're going to release me in another month or two to return to what I got to do, and hopefully I can start training and get back to what I do.
Now, I don't know anything about titanium. I do know. Well, actually, I know one thing. My boss had 2 hip replacements, and he has, you know, I guess titanium or whatever they put in there. But does it? I mean, is it something that makes it? I mean, how does it affect mobility? Is it supposed to?
I don't have full range yet.
Right.
But
is it
that's
something-
what the physical therapists do. They actually stretch you and move you
Is
to
it the
get
stretching
that
of the muscles? Is that the deal, or is it this? Because I would imagine it's like is it like a socket or something? How does it connect?
The rotator cuff is what's responsible for moving and controlling the arm.
Right.
So it's a major part of everything that you do. You have all the supporting muscles, but the rotator cuff itself is
And that's
actually
metal now?
responsible. Well, what it is they made 3 incisions,
Right.
and then they screwed it on there. I don't know how many screws.
Right.
But they screwed it into the bone. So that was a lot of the burning
Wow.
sensation that I felt when I was healing.
Right.
Like it heats up. You know, if I start moving around in physical therapy, I feel it heating up. It gets hot in there. And that's part of the thing. So they cool you down afterwards. So it's a process. But
I'll tell you, I'd be crying like a baby right now. So I don't know. It's amazing. But I would never. It was an accident, though, right? I mean,
it was an accident. Yep.
And what was it? Was you were? I mean,
I was driving my vehicle, and someone else had hit me, and it's real complex. But you know,
was it? Is everything settled with that thing at this point? Or
no, there's a lot of things still going on with that. That's you know.
And do you feel? I mean, any animosity towards the person, or was it just an accident?
No, well, an accident's an accident,
Right.
but it has taken a lot. It has set me back tremendously. I also have some herniated discs from it. I had a very bad head injury for a long time. I had memory loss. I had blank spots. You know, so there was a lot of things that disrupted me. You know, when you get hit in the head, It really.
I know that's the worst place to get it.
Yeah.
I mean, I hit the windshield going 35 miles an hour, so I know. I mean, I had an injury as well.
Yeah, and
it's-
you lose your memory,
it
and
takes a
you
while.
start not recognizing things in your own home. It's kind of scary.
I know.
You know, you're like, wait a minute, where am I? And you're in your own living room, but you don't know where you are. You know, it's kind of weird.
Well, it seems like you've come back, from that at least. So it's terrible. But I guess life, again, my father told me this. There's a saying that men make plans and God laughs. I mean, you have this, I mean, what happens happens. And a lot of times it's out of your control. But you're able. You're a person who's able to deal with adversity very well, which is pretty cool.
Thanks. I want to make it back. I want to get back to what I do.
And you'll get there. It's interesting because I think that's the whole thing is if a person's motivated and they're not totally, disabled, they could get to at least, get close to where they were. I'm pretty sure you're going to make it. I mean, because I know your determination. There's no one more determined and more focused than you. And you're also, you're a hell of a guy, man. You're a really good guy. And it's interesting. Like, I never knew you before James even suggested to make the telephone call. So to me, that's like, it's amazing how what happens in life, just the twists and turns,
James is a good friend.
Yeah.
He's there for you.
I know.
When he goes beyond work, and that's what's great. And now I meet more friends. And that's how it works. Good people introduce you to more good people.
It was so cool to have him on the set when the sit down. That was a great episode, and I can't wait to see it. I mean, and meaning that I can't wait for it to be edited. And but we're still working on episode 2, if you could believe it. But episode 3 is next, and I think that was shot really well, and it was in a good location. That restaurant, I think. The acoustics, because I think the sound is going to be really good there.
I think so. There was a good feeling that day too.
It was a great feeling, and you patted down those guys pretty good.
Got to do my job,
That's it. It's funny,
Don't want Salvatore mad at Sonny.
It's funny, all these criminals, and there's no. I mean, I'm not going to get there, but we're not fighting or anything. I mean, the talk is intense though, and I think the acting is good. To me, the intensity of those scenes.
I think everybody flips their switch real well,
Yeah.
crawls into their characters, and really.
I mean,
with
Anthony-
improv, you have to. You really. There's no one saying this is the direction you're going to take. So you really have to get into character.
And the interesting thing also is like, I mean, you're a stone-faced killer, And Anthony was like this measly, whiny guy, and Anthony was good in that scene. I mean, he really got me with that. And Salvatore, I mean, Anthony was looking for any way out, and Salvatore was tough, man. Salvatore was the Greg who did it.
I like the way that went down. I mean, he was whining for his life, and hey,
And even my other cousin, I initially, there were 2 people that I was interested in getting for the part. James's daughter was one of them, and Rebecca, who actually took the part of Salvatore's daughter.
Right.
And she was pretty good, But even though she was good, and this episode didn't it go like that? Because
Yes.
it's an amazing thing. But there's only one thing left to say. First of all, there's 2 things. I'd like to say thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. That's a wrap. Good night, folks.